Welcome to Business Weekly. I'm your girl, Miss J, your hostess with the mostest, your drip strategist, and your boss methodologist. And today we're diving into a critical topic that can make or break your customers' relationships and your reputation. Today's show is called Client Confusion and How Operational Gaps Hurt Your Business. Now, you know that I'm on a four-part series with operations because it's my passion. I love doing systems. I love doing processes. I love taking business models and turning them into operational giants because we know that the only way you're going to bring revenue is if you have a sustainable foundation in your company and you have the ability to not only service your clients, but to service all those who are working to buy your products or your services. Now, a lot of organizations underestimate how gaps in their operations can lead to client misunderstandings or delays and ultimately damage their trust. And we know that's how we make our money. We make our money through trust and credibility. So I want you to stay with us today as we explore common causes, real world examples, and actionable solutions to keep your clients confident and your reputation intact. Now, as always, I like to start with a little something, something. And today I'm going to put up a couple of scenarios that I want you to look at. I don't know if you're hearing my bleeping. People are trying to find out, hey, girl, people be trying to find me. Okay, I'm going to keep on my notifications because questions are coming in already. So I will go back and forth. But let's start with our first scenario. Startup businesses. Now, I deal with all forms. Oh, shout out to my girls who are in the building, the sweet spot again coming through. Tara's Vegan Cuisine. I see you, honey. TG's in the building. So take this in. Startup business. I want you to read the scenario. I put it on the screen for you so you can follow with me. Now, let's say this is an online custom t-shirt shop. Okay. Now, a startup launches a new online order system. Due to a quick rollout, the order tracking feature is buggy. Customers receive multiple confirmation emails with some orders showing as shipped when they haven't yet been processed. Meanwhile, customer inquiries about order status go unanswered due to an untrained support team. Now, what do you think? I'm going to give you about 5 whole seconds because 5 seconds in radio time is like an hour. So I'm going to give you 5 whole seconds to think of what are some of the operational gaps that you see in this system. Okay, your 5 seconds is up. It was 3, but 5 is long. Here we go. Well, here are your gaps. Well, first off, we see that they did rapid product service rollout without adequate testing. Now, tell me if you are that person who likes to make a lot of products or increase your services offerings, and you put it out there and you're expecting the world to just jump on it. Well, that sometimes happens. If you haven't tested it, then you're going to have a bit of a problem. The other problem that they had here was lack of integrated systems for order processing and communication. So you saw the problem was that people were not being communicated to that things were changing. And so therefore they kind of had to either figure it out or they just got frustrated and left the system. And the third was insufficient staff training for customer inquiry handling. Now, why is that important? Because when your people who actually work for you don't know what's going on, that's a problem. Okay. Customers become confused. That's what the result of this is. They become confused about whether their orders are confirmed or delayed. Then what happens? You get negative feedback on social media. You start seeing those anger faces and whatnot. Then they start questioning the reliability of your systems. And this damages the startup's credibility even before it establishes trust. So I really want you to replay this at the end. I want you to put this back on, get your notebook out, and work through your scenario to say, am I in that situation? And we know that as startups are happening, a lot of people don't have massive marketing budgets. So you have to be even more careful about how your customer service plays on. All right. So you're saying, Miss J, oh, do I say guilty? I see that there. What does Sweet Spot say? She said, you're guilty of this? You're guilty? Yes. People, I know some of my clients. Oh my God. If you guys could be just churning products out, if I don't hold them back sometimes, I have to be like, yeah, okay, well, we're gonna do that after you get your first product selling, because it's exciting. You're excited, you're passionate, you're feeling yourself. You're like, I get up and I have all these ideas how to save the world and end poverty and all that great stuff. And then you roll it out without the thought process of a system or the operational structure. Now, you're not the only one startup businesses. I'm going to be fair and I'm going to target some of the big boys and big girls. And that's the large corporations. So here's the scenario I want you to see. And maybe you were a target, a customer of something like this. So the situation here is a customer subscribes to a premium internet package. During the onboarding process, different departments provide conflicting information. One department mentions a special promotional discount while another states the regular pricing. When the customer contacts the customer service for clarification, they experience long wait times and inconsistent responses. Who has had that problem? Yes. Let me not call out my service provider, please, because sometimes I have to think to them twice. But what are some of the operational gaps that they are having? Well, let's go find out. Here they are, 3 key ones that I'm going to bring out to you. The first one is the disjointed communication channels between sales, billing, and customer support. Now, in small businesses, you usually are the sales team, the bill invoice, the finance team, and customer service. So, I mean, if you're not talking to each other, that's a problem. You need to talk to yourself 3 different ways. But in large corporations, these are whole departments. And so that disjointed communication can be really deadly because clearly sales did not, or billing didn't talk to sales didn't talk to billing, and either of them talked to customer support. So communication is a key here. The second lack was the unified customer information system, causing staff to have outdated or incomplete data. Okay, so when you're looking at your information systems, you have to ask, do your systems talk to each other, right? So they have apps that now talk to each other. Like, for example, you can do stuff in Canva and go to MailChimp, or you can go here. These new CRMs have, you can embed and attach, and now they can do all their customer service for you. So just make sure that if you're using these systems, and large companies typically do, then they have to ensure that they're talking to each other. And the last one was there's no standardized guidelines on promotional messaging. That's, you'll hear me say this all the time, standard structure. I know that, sometimes our culture, we don't like structure. We just like it to be so spontaneous. Problem with spontaneous in business, it's being so broke. All right. So you have to plan your pennies, plan your coins, plan your dollars, plan your millions. Okay. What is the result here? Well, the result comes from the customer becoming frustrated and feels misled. What do? Get to social media and start posting negative reviews online, warning others, yo, don't go to this because, and they're showing, their emotions are all on that caption, right? And those comments. And so you want to make sure that you're not doing that. And what happens? The company's reputation suffers. Now, remember what they say. When something good happens, the average person will tell 3 to 5. When something bad happens, the average person will tell 9 to 25, right? And now with social media, before it was word of mouth, but now with social media, if they have thousands of people following, guess what? 10%, 20 or 30%, that's 200, 300, 400 people. Okay, so you have to remind yourself that the customer churn happens here. When you have negative situations happening, these companies could possibly lose thousands and thousands of customers, especially if their customers have thousands and thousands of followers or no people. Okay, so those are just a couple of things, a couple of scenarios I wanted to throw out to you because I want you to wake up. I want you to start really looking at your business structure, and I want you to call your girl, Miss J, and say, hey, can you look at my business model and make sure my operations are aligned? And when you start and sustain and scale your business, those models have to change. Those systems may have to change or expand, or the processes have to be reduced or increased. Okay. So whenever you're starting to grow your company, note that once you start bringing on people as a small business, striving to be a big business, that you're going to have systems in place to ensure that the people on your team are following through. Okay. So if you have any questions, please feel free to hit it up in the chat today. If you haven't been here at Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, please hit the subscribe button. Our numbers are growing, and I want to thank you so much for supporting. Now, forget that word supporting. I'm going to find a new word for supporting. I decided, give me a second, let me drink my job. So good. Listen, I've decided we're going to change this name support. If you think of a better name, put it up on the screen. We're going to change the word support because support just says, oh my God, you're doing so good. Oh my God, this is amazing. No, we need you to be present. We need you to show up. So if you're here, thank you for showing up. And if you're not following Love Bay, follow them now. Follow them on IG. Follow them here. And guess what? Soon we're going to be having other events coming on. And I want you to be 100% aware because you know what? We can't grow when we don't know. So make sure you're telling everybody to get on top of that. All right, that's my promo for today. Now, who do you think we're bringing back? Yes, my home. We are bringing back none other than my girl, Chrisanne Miche. Yes, I changed it on her birth certificate. Yes, honey, she is now Miche. We're on a 4-part series. So we've already done 2 shows. Today is our 3rd. Next week will be our 4th. And our 4-part series was on the importance of operational systems and processes. It's a masterclass, y'all. You can't say that Miss J did not deliver on some juice and gems for you this month, okay? Now, as always, I have to introduce her because if you're new, you're not going to know who she is. Chrisanne's a multidisciplinary consultant who bridges the gap between business structure and creative expression. With a dual focus on operations management and creative direction, she helps small businesses and thought leaders bring clarity, cohesion, depth, and intentionality to both their internal systems and outward-facing work. In her creative direction work, Chrisanne partners with visionaries, creatives, and entrepreneurs to bring their ideas, frameworks, and lived experiences to life through ghostwriting. Yes, watch out for a book coming from me, written by her, coming to you soon. Okay, I ain't afraid of no ghost. All right. And she also does editing, book design, and learning design. So whether she's publishing a book or she's creating a multimedia memoir or an immersive workshop series, she transforms personal narratives and big picture thinking into powerful, purposeful content. Her process blends emotional depth with practical strategy, balancing artistry and structure to create work that teaches, inspires, and connects. Please welcome to the stage once again, my girl, Chrisanne Miche. Yes, yes, coming from the Veeks, honey. This is what happens when you're always on the go. Love it. How you doing, girl? And you're on mute, so I was about to say, if you start talking, I'm gonna laugh at you. How you doing?
I am good. I'm good. It's been a long day, but a good day. How are you?
Girl,
Yes, we're twinning.
let me tell you, we are locking it today. Take it to church and say minister instead of support. Yes, honey. Sweet spot, always giving. I love her. Yes, I'm so glad that you're here. I know it's been a long day today. From my other side of my business, I was down in Niagara at an investment event, and it was a fantabulous. We did a wine tour, and we had amazing charcuterie and all that kind of stuff. Shout out to AGF doing the damn thing. Yeah,
Living the life.
Girl, I am living this grind, honey. I'm finna get my million by 2026. So like in the summertime, I'm giving myself till summer so I can enjoy it on the yacht. You know that kind of thing. You know what we're talking about, girl. You know you're on the same track. If you on that track, shout out, put some dollar signs into the chat, put some dollar signs, make some comments. Let us know that you're going to be joining us on the yacht 2026 summertime. I'm not even going to put on summertime because we might just take a whole 6 weeks tour across Lake Ontario. I don't know, something like that.
Ma'am. It's like Lake Ontario.
You were with me until Lake Ontario.
I was like, this sounds wonderful. Oh.
Oh my God, and Stacey would say it's giving local. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's jump in because we know we've been having some great conversations, been getting some really good feedback from the listeners, and this was one of them that when I was setting up our part series, and I saw there were some questions, I'm like, oh, let me go in and retweak this a little bit because we want to help, and we know me and Chris say all the time. This is not the most popular conversation or discussion amongst small businesses. But we are trying to change the flow. We are trying to change the narrative. We are trying to increase your knowledge, skill, and capacity. So stay with us. Hit replay whenever you get into the point of planning. Hit the replay and watch the pitfalls. right? Watch the pitfalls and follow the actionable solutions we're putting on here for you. So let's jump right in. The first thing I wanted to talk about um, was what exactly do we mean? Let's put some clarity to this. Let's get back to the basics. What do we mean when we say client confusion and how operational gaps contribute to this problem?
I mean, if we keep it simple, it's just when your clients have no direction. They don't know what is happening, where to go, and that operational gap in terms of you providing that direction, providing that instruction, providing that certainty of what's going to happen next. When you don't provide that, that can mess with your profit, that can mess with the reputation of your business. The last thing you want to do is leave somebody confused. We all know how we are when we're
Mhm.
confused, right?
Yes.
And I am the type of person, once I decide to commit to something, uh, I don't like, well, certain things. I don't like ambiguity, or I don't like a certain amount of, you know, what's happening here, right? And
Mhm.
so, business, like you were saying earlier, that's the last place that you want somebody to be confused, to be unaware, to have the wrong information. Not your business. If you're going on a trip and you want to be spontaneous, that's great. Not your business.
Not your business or your business plan.
Not,
God, Jesus, please don't do that.
yeah.
I mean, it's like the first thing I do when I start working with a client is I ask them for their blueprint, and I say I need to see your blueprint because I need to understand what you're trying to build, so I can build your systems, your
Mhm.
process, or get your operations going. And they say, "Well, I don't have a blueprint." Okay, tell me what your business does. 10 years later. So what does your business do? Right? Because people get so passionate about what they want that they tend to think, and I'm going to take that from that perspective because what you're saying is exactly
Yeah.
right. If I'm a business coach and I'm an operations systems specialist, I need to understand what you're doing. And if I'm lost, how the hell have you been even selling? How is this happening? Like, it defines
Mhm.
why people are not buying your products or services. They don't know what they're buying. And that connecting the dot piece is the biggest piece. Like, and this is why I urge people and I say, could we slow down on the product development side? Like, could we stop making
Yeah.
65
Yeah.
products? Because after a while, they don't even know what they're buying from you anymore. You know what I mean? Are they
No.
buying crayons, books, pencils, goats, raccoons? I don't know. What are they buying? You know what I mean? So confusion, people. Let's just bring the confusion down a little bit. A little bit.
Mhm. I think the next thing too that I notice with small businesses, and especially, I call myself a multidisciplinary consultant, and I mean we'll get to that a little bit later. But
Mhm,
I think there's this, sometimes there's so many ideas,
mhm,
and I think ideas are wonderful, but that functional piece of kind of figuring out, okay, this is one, how my what my business is doing, how I want it to function, and how I want people to see it. I think those little pieces are not really thought through, depending on, all these ideas. It's just, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and I want to do this. And like you
mhm.
said, there's sometimes that stopping on the product development side to just bring it back and say, okay, maybe we
Yeah,
can find something cohesive that you can be known for, right?
yeah.
And I
100.
speak from the point of view of somebody who, has had a hard time niching. So I
Mhm.
completely get it.
Yes,
Um, but there is a way to niche, and operations has been my way to do that.
a hundred
So,
percent. And I think
mhm.
that definitely leads into, I guess what you can say is it's a form of patience that you have to have because sometimes people don't realize that when they have a thought or an idea in their head, they just feel that
Mhm.
everyone understands it. And unfortunately, mind reading has become quite reduced in this day and age. So, it's something where you have to be able to communicate, not just through the mission or your values, philosophies, or goals, but more importantly,
Mhm.
your processes, right? So, I like using CRMs, but sometimes my CRM just it we don't speak the same language. You know what I mean? I have to go
Mhm.
through, or somebody
Mhm.
says, "Well, Miss Lee, you sent me the link, but I haven't gotten the second part." And I thank all my clients for being patient with my progressing, advancing AI in my business. But I know sometimes it's frustrating on both ends to think that you set up this automation
Mhm.
and you're good to go, and then you get a text or a DM saying, "Hey, yeah, I didn't get that information you were supposed to send." Right? So, it what it did tell me was slow down and really work on one
Mhm.
process at a time. And this is something I'm going to give to the listeners. Listeners, you need to really focus on writing out your process. Literally sit with a pen and paper and say step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And if you have 25 steps, that's fine, but then you got to figure out how you're going to communicate that to your clients or possible prospects or customers. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think
Sorry.
slowing down is a big part of the process. No, I was just gonna say I think slowing down is a big part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to highlight.
Agreed. I like what you think. So let's go into another topic, because that one I think we tied up. If you didn't get it, press the replay. As always, you're gonna hear me say that a lot. We try to make these shows where, and I speak on behalf of Love Day, but we really try to make these shows informative, everyone. So I'm coming to my audience and I'm saying to you, hey, pass this on to somebody who needs it or who doesn't need it but needs to hear it. We have to share information because information is vital to the success. And if a lot of companies want to be at the top of the industry or at least have a fair market share, this is what these companies have done. They have reviewed and consistently reviewed their processes and their operational systems, so that they can deliver clear, concise communication to their users. Okay. We know there's typical gaps that include poor internal communication or inconsistent service delivery, etc. But let's talk a little bit about what are some of the other common operational gaps that tend to cause client confusion.
Mhm.
What do you-
I want to say, and I'll,
So what?
I'll I'll touch on this because I got confession. Um, I want to
Brush your
say,
chest today. Talk your truth, girl. I feel you. Pastor
I want to
Julian.
say. So, I mean, on the same note, as before, I would say inconsistent information. So you touched on it, different staff doing different things, relaying different information, inconsistency, info on the product, you know, um, onboarding confusion. Another one I would say inconsistent pricing, surprise
Mhm.
fees, increased fees. Um, I would say, and you know what? This is more so internal, but it affects everything. The lack of feedback loops.
Mhm.
Those, like you're talking about testing earlier, the lack of feedback loops and audits, we talked a little bit about that the last session. But
Mhm.
those things, again, an audit to see, okay, where are the gaps in my processes,
Yeah.
right? So that you can actually fix them. um, the feedback looks, how do you hear back from your customers, right?
Mhm.
That's a huge part of actually fixing the gaps.
Yes.
um, and I find that, as I said before, sometimes we're so afraid of hearing those
Mhm.
things, or the bad outcomes, that we skip over that, or we are so pushed to make the money that we skip
Yes.
over those things. But those things
Yeah.
affect, I would say,
They do.
definitely affect your bottom line.
They do. And I'm gonna add one thing to that. I love my black people. I do. But stop being ignorant when somebody gives you right? When somebody gives you the feedback, you don't need to lash back on. But you don't buy my product. Whoa, easy. Right? Like You have to understand that these are the people that are going to pay your bills, put food on the table, put a roof over your head, and make pay the car payment that's going to pay the airplane tickets for your travel. Like, you have to understand the importance of what your customers or client roles are in your business. And I think a lot of business owners, and I shouldn't say a lot, but the ones that I've encountered, some that I've encountered, they miss that point entirely. It's almost like, there's an old saying, the customer is always right. And to a certain extent, they are, in terms of they have the right or not to buy their product. And because now there is so much opportunity to find competition, you got to even be more careful on how you're reacting. Like, if someone wants to bring something back because they're truly not happy, suck up the $19, put it back in their account, and take back the product. There's no need to ruin a whole relationship over $6.50 profit. There's just no need. And a lot of people sabotage themselves because they want to hold on to every little penny. But in the business world, that money has to cycle. That's why when you look at something, what's the first thing you do when you order from these Shein, Temu? What do we look for? What's the refund policy? If it doesn't fit, they're gonna right? You're looking for the policy. What's the refund policy? Let me tell you, right?
Girl,
Shein, and the refund, I think, was,
um,
right? We look for it ourselves. So why would you not give that same respect to a client or customer who possibly doesn't want, can't use, or can't fit your product, right? So I'm just gonna say, just hold it down on the ignorance and stop going on like, say you bless them with something in life, because there are 90 other companies that are doing the same thing as you, and they will be more than happy to give back to people them their money so that they come back because of the customer service. So write that down. People come back for the customer service, not necessarily the product. Like, they could get toothpaste anywhere, but if I get toothpaste with a smile versus toothpaste with a frown, I will gladly pay the dollar more to get the toothpaste with a smile. Make sense? I think so.
I think so. I think so. I'm an IKEA girl. I love me a good refund policy.
Did you say
Or
a
I
good
need
one?
to know a refund policy, or I need to know that what, say for instance, if I know that the refund policy is not as favorable as IKEA, I need to know that the quality of the product that I'm buying,
Yes.
and I'm speaking in this mode about like furniture. I love furniture. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I need to know the quality of the product that I'm buying is good. If I'm
Yes.
gonna sit
Yeah.
with a very scanty refund policy. But those are the things again, and I think we've said this every episode so far. It's just like customer service and trust. People come back for those things. People will forgive your mistakes, not that you're trying to make them, but when they have good customer service and when they trust you, um, they'll give you another chance if
A
you
thousand
happen
percent.
to mess up.
A
Yeah.
1000%. And make it easy for them to, we all like a free app. We like, you're using this app for like for your technology, for your operations, and you're like, this one's free and this is free. Okay, I'm about that. I feel you, entrepreneurs. I feel you.
Mhm.
I get it. But if you're running a business, you can't operate on free all the time. Because why? It's not necessarily designed to help big businesses. The free ones are for you to intros, for you to try it out, for you to test the systems, and then figure it out. And then you should be looking for the next level of that app, because that's going to change the output of your business productivity. And that I'm going to have a series on business productivity. That's one of my next ones, because I don't think people understand what business productivity is. I think a lot of people are thinking it's just sales, but productivity stems from your operations, right? If you're spending,
Mhm.
5 hours a day going through your Excel templates and your Microsoft Word documents, you could get that on an app, pay $19 a month, and free up yourself 20 hours a month so you can focus on your sales or your marketing or your funnels and increase that productivity. And a lot of people don't get that it connects the dots. A real world example, how gaps lead to client confusion. Have you ever experienced anything that comes to
Well,
mind? Flip through the
well,
Rolodex.
I said I have confessions. I have confessions.
Oh,
So
speak of it, girl.
and again, I'm hoping that this will kind of speak to those who have kind of multiple products or multiple services. So as a consultant that often offers, um, different services and they're custom, they require a lot of like analysis or changes. That's something that
Mhm.
I had to tighten up for myself, right?
Mm.
I think one of the biggest issues that I faced, and again, one of the gaps that I brought up was the surprise fees or increased fees, not even necessarily surprise, but increased fees. So,
Right.
for one of the things for me, I had to review, and this is why I'm like, you got to do an audit. You got to do an audit. You got to have those feedback loops because I've been able to have the kind of relationships with my clients where they feel comfortable enough telling me when they're uncomfortable with something or what they want. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to open um, that line of communication with your clients. And again, trust customer service. So one of
Yeah.
the things that I would have to do is I found that I would have to integrate analyses into my business um, more at different milestones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is I don't want to quote somebody something, right?
Right.
And then I go in and I find out it's more work, and then I come back to you and say, "Hey, well, actually,
Yes.
we don't we don't like
Yeah.
that," right? And
No.
so again, like especially with editing, depending on the amount of work. So if I'm structurally editing a book, and it ends up being more work in terms of, dividing the chapters and creating new chapters and, having to structurally move things around, eliminating whole sections, all of that, there's a lot more work involved there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in with regards to things that are custom, and then you can take this same advice and simplify it, right? You need to look at your processes to see where can I cut down the amount of confusion, right?
Yeah.
Where can I cut down any surprises
Mm-hmm.
or things that make clients uneasy? Because if you
Yeah.
use I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's helpful for business owners to kind of look at human behavior as well as they
Mm-hmm.
consider their processes, right? Because that's what we talk about. What a lot of the bigger companies have done. That's what they've done, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what you want to do is make everything as easy for your client as possible with as much clarity as possible. So
A
for
hundred.
me, what I've so I found what worked for me was to integrate different analyses at different milestones. I now before I used to do hourly,
Mm-hmm.
but that would um, be ambiguous. That would give lack of clarity because what if it takes me longer? And again, your client has a budget, right? They're coming to you and they're saying, "This is what I want, and this is how much I'm willing to pay for it." So you
Mm-hmm.
need to figure out what fits into that budget. So
Yes.
I literally would do now I do a retainer for a minimum amount of months and the services involved in there. So it doesn't matter what they ask me to do within that time period, right? They know exactly what they're paying for how many months and how many weeks per hours per week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the next thing is again, as much as you can template, cut
Yeah.
down the amount of time that you do different things. So that those were a few things that like I had to do. And then I charge by if it's a different case, I charge by sprint. So in project management, we talk about a sprint, which is simply just a set amount of time or a set amount of work in a relatively short period of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be very clear as to this is going to be accomplished within this amount of time for this much finished, right?
Done.
So you want
Yeah.
to provide as much clarity as possible. But that's something that I had to look back at my business look at the feedback from my clients, or even one of the things that's good about customer service, you also have to be able to read your clients.
That's
So
it.
you can see when they're uncomfortable. Sometimes they might not say that, but you can see when they're comfortable. And especially if you open that line of communication with them, they will tell you when they're uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And so you notice those things, you do your audits, and you try to minimize the amount of things that would make a client uncomfortable or provide less clarity in your processes. So that's something I personally had to integrate for myself. So that's my real world. um,
And I mean, you touched
whatever.
on something that I want to pinpoint, and this comes to your own personal tracking. So if you know your strength, your weaknesses, then you know what is going to take you to finish something. So for example, if you're a designer and you're going to be doing a line, the one thing I will say is, how
Mhm.
long does it take you? Like, that's the first thing I start saying. I'm like, okay, you want to track your product? Well, Mr. I want to charge this much. Okay, well, let me ask you a few questions. How long is it taking you? Right? How long does it take you to
Mhm.
make the product? How long does it take you to execute or go and shopping for the supplies? Or how long is it going to take you? And people they do it so naturally, they don't understand that if you're not tracking the time, then you underestimate the price. And so you say, oh, I could do that for $25. And then when you sit on there on the machine and you're there for say 9 hours and your fingers are pringling and whatnot, then you start questioning. And the funny thing is, what I've experienced is they don't question themselves. They don't question themselves.
Mhm.
They throw it on the person to say, well, this is a no-no. I'm going to tell everybody's listening, this is a big no-no. Do not make your clients pay for your mistake. If you told them $25 and you said you could have this back in a day and you give it back to them 3 weeks later because it took you that long, collect your $25 and go to the liquor store and buy yourself a drink and say, this will never happen again. Okay? Because you can't you can't go, I can't stand when I hear this. Well, they're calling you to say, well, you're going to need to pay me more money because this job was bigger than I quoted for. Not my problem. That sounds like a personal problem, one that does not have my name written on it, right? So when I first started, I used to underestimate all the time. I used to be like, okay, yeah, I could do that for $100, and then after I'd be sitting up at 4 in the morning and be like, you idiot, what were you thinking, right? So I agree with you
Mhm.
100%. You got to know where your strengths are. You got to know what you do well, right? So if I know I can whip off a business plan in a day, then I'm going to charge probably the same amount if I was whipping off that business plan in 6 weeks, right? But it's all about understanding the timing. Time yourself on the things you're doing. I don't care if you're sewing. I don't care if you're making food. I don't care if you're cooking this or whatever it is. How long to do to facials? Like the whole point. Ask Stacy. I said, Stacy, I want you to time a facial. And she said, no, Miss J, I could do this in like 15, 20 minutes. 45 minutes later, we were still doing a facial. She said, whoa. She looked at the clock and she said, whoa, right? And that helped her to recognize how much facial she can do in a day. It helped her recognize what she should be charging for the facial. So understand, people, that your processes are not just for the client and customer. It starts with you. You have to understand your pieces. Now you got some, I mean, you've heard Crochet drop down some real solutions to that, right? So you heard her talking about streamlining your communications. You heard her talking about documenting your processes. You heard us talking about living in real time in terms of, checking. Now, one of the other things, and you also heard about audits and customer feedback loops. Those are very, very important. If you're not collecting information from your client, and not just the good information, and also to this, please, let's just stop saying, well, how did you like my product? That's a question. The questions you really want to ask was, did you feel that I got this product to you in a timely fashion? That's a question that you want to ask, because it says your shipping is good, your packaging, and right? Did you like the package that it came in? Did it come in and was it damaged, or did everything come intact? Another key question to see if the way you're packaging your products are showing up at your customer's door the way they saw it on your website. Okay, not beat up and looking like it went through. cost them 6 times from sideways and through 14 X-ray machines, right? So is there any other thing they should be asking, for feedback so that they can update their systems and processes?
Asking customers. I think one of the things I personally ask is, how do you feel about the process, right? Um, I ask them from start to finish. How do we feel? And for me, I have worked in at every step of my process to ask for feedback at every step of the process. How do
Mm-hmm.
you feel this is going? Do you feel like we collected all the information? Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything else you would like to add? Um, just because I feel like, we ask the question to get the good review,
Yeah.
but again, it's about asking the questions to improve. What could add to this
In the
service,
back.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
What else? And this is for, any other service provider. Say, for instance, you're offering two products or you're offering two services, and you are able to offer a third service that can make a one-stop shop. One of the things that you could ask your clients is, do you think if I add such and such, this will be helpful to this or this? I
Mhm.
think it's very good to have targeted questions, just because you want your clients to feel satisfied throughout the whole process. You want everything to be smooth, right?
Yes.
So I think those are things that, people should be asking their clients. Ask from a point of, I want this to be the best, highest quality. Did you like the color? What color? Like little things like that, right?
It's true. Yeah, it's
And
very true.
try things out. Like, ask with the intention to improve, not just to get the good review. And take every sale as a learning experience
Mhm.
versus just an attempt to make some money.
That's it. We got to move the money out of the peripheral because it's going to come. We do something well, it will come. I mean, look at pro athletes,
Mhm.
music, tech people. Like they're millionaires not because they were looking at how much dollars they were making. They were looking at how can I give the best product. And one of the things that I also want
Mhm.
to add to that is that when you're looking to get into product development, it should be from the customer's responses. If they say, "Do you have this in black?" That's when the juices should start flowing, right? Not let me make every color on the
Mhm.
rainbow, and then your taupe sits down in the closet for like 6 months in your inventory, and you're wondering why nobody bought it because nobody asked. Nobody asked for your taupe. Take it off the market, right? So let people them ask, man. Just give them a moment. Let them ask. I want to say thank you so much, Chris Ann. We have another week, y'all. We are coming out strong on these messages. You've given some amazing advice. Thank you for all your testimonials. I praise you in the name of Jesus. You are free, honey. You have been lifted. You can be here.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
for
much,
having
Chris.
me as always.
Always. Let me tell you, the people are loving you. The people are loving you. So let's bring the magic next week, right here on Business Weekly. I'll see you in the green room in a few minutes.
Okay.
If you are
All
now just
right.
joining, take care, love. If you're now just joining Love It Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, welcome, welcome, welcome to Business Weekly. Each week we're here and we are giving you what you need. I am sure the producer will take you off the screen momentarily, but I'm not stopping my show. If you found today's episode helpful, just she's gonna be on with me now. Share it with another entrepreneur. Follow her on her Chrisanne Miche. You have to say it that way. Her name as you see it on the screen. Just follow it. Take out the hyphen. Chrisanne Miche, and you are going to see her on Instagram. So make sure that you are following her. Just remember, I want you to remember. I'm feeling like it's glitching. Okay, no, I think we're good. I want you to remember that to be profitable, you have to identify, you gotta fix the missing or inefficient processes. You gotta one task at a time. Sometimes like, ooh, girl, okay, there we are. She came back to say something amazing. It's ongoing. improvement is ongoing. It never stops. They say the biggest world in the room is the room for improvement. So never think that your product or your service is always at top tier. Always look for more. Always look for a better way to grow your bottom line, because it's important. Why? Because the people who are buying your product and services are the ones who are going to grow your bottom line. So make sure it works. All right. So I want to say thank you for joining. Make sure you're following me on Empire by Design _ on IG. Go to my website, HTTPS, you know that one. Then just put empirebydesign.ca and join the newsletter. Join my communities. We're always looking to help empower. Shout out to all my ladies who show up for me every single week. We are building a community that is not hinged on support. It's hinged on 3 things, my 3 C's: being committed, being consistent. Girl, Miss J, your drip strategist, your boss methodologist. I want you to be proactive, stay vigilant, and keep profits flowing. And as always, keep your head in the skies, spread your wings, and let's fly. Have a good one.